I'm sat here at the London EV show with Quentin Willson, and I'm sure you know who he is. He was actually the first presenter of Top Gear, and he's actually a huge advocate before most of the people for electric vehicles. So tell me, Quentin, as you were pioneering and flying the flag for electric vehicles many years ago, and many laughed, are they laughing now?
No, they're not laughing now. And I remember showing a Citroen C0 electric car that I'd bought with my own money to Clarkson. And he looked at me and said, "Don't bring that anywhere near me." And that was, a decade ago. And now look, there's the Tesla everywhere. Electric cars are all over the place. So, he backed the wrong horse.
So we are here at the London EV show. So obviously, you did back the correct horse.
Yeah, and I remember that moment in 1996, I think, 1997. I was filming for Top Gear in LA, and I drove the GM EV1, which was that £1 billion electric car, which was fantastic. And they crushed them all because it was so good. And I remember thinking, this really is the future, because it was fast, it was silent, and people loved it.
So I wanted to ask, your first ever electric vehicle you mentioned you bought with your own money. What was the range on that?
50 miles on a good day. So I used to take my children to school in it, and they would say, "Daddy, don't take me to school in the electric car." People point and laugh. And when it was cold and you put the heater on, it went from 50 to like 30. So we would go in our coats. I mean, it was a real journey. And if you put the lights and the wipers on, because they also had a bearing on the battery range, it was just miserable. And we wouldn't dare go to somewhere, because I live in Stratford-upon-Avon, so Leamington Spa, we didn't know whether we'd get back. But it was really important to test that technology. And it did work, and batteries got bigger and ranges got longer. And here we are, and I've got a Tesla now that'll do 270 miles in real life driving. And last night I plugged it into a lamppost outside my house. And look, so the point of this show today is to say EVs are here and now. You see them all over the place. There's no range anxiety. What we need now is a charging infrastructure. We need the government to really pull their finger out and have a proper strategy, and a czar, a charging czar, and deliver the confidence that people need.
That's great. So you are actually launching a campaign today, aren't you? Tell me more about that.
Okay, so it's FairCharge, and this is on the back of my very successful Fair Fuel campaign, which saved 100 billion in fuel duties. So what we want to do is pressurize the government to understand, because so many MPs and ministers don't drive electric cars. And there's no excuse. You cannot lecture us on electrification from the back of a diesel people carrier. So get them to understand, and I will offer test drives to any MP or minister who's watching. Just like that, I'll have a row of electric cars parked on Parliament Square so they can test drive them and see how good they are. But we need them to do the right policies that help consumers understand electric cars, and to have the infrastructure, and to get this wider adoption, because there's so much at stake. And the goal for me is to establish a battery industry in the UK. That's really, really important before the Chinese and the Japanese and the South Koreans take that away from us forever. And also just to make sure that we have a transition from fossil fuels to renewable low-carbon electricity that gives us the air quality that will make this country completely different. And it's not just about carbon, it's about air quality as well. The Royal College of Surgeons say that 40,000 people die prematurely from respiratory problems due to air quality. Let's do that. Let's do something about it. So there's a public health emergency. So that, for me, is what electrification is all about.
Right. So how can we all help you to make this happen? Because it's got to be a collaborative effort, right?
Good question, Abigail. So it's fairfuel.co.uk, and at Twitter it's at FairCharge UK. Sign up, because the more supporters we have, the more I can send to MPs and ministers' inboxes saying we need to lower the cost of electricity, we need to build more chargers, all these things, because you can put pressure on governments and you can put pressures on ministers and MPs and get questions asked in the House of Commons. So the more people who join faircharge.co.uk, the more support we'll have to clean the air in this country.
You were successful, as you said, in your other campaign about fuel, and you saved people a lot of money. So what are the potential savings that we think that we could have from this campaign?
That's another really good question, Abigail, because people don't know how much cheaper it is to run an EV than a combustion car. So they complain about the upfront costs, and EVs right now are more expensive. Yeah, absolutely. But once you look at the total life costs beyond, say, 5 years, you've got very little maintenance. When I ran a Nissan Leaf for 3 years, all I had was wiper blades and cabin filters. No other mechanical components, no servicing, nothing, just an inspection. I mean, it's pennies, it really is. You save on your fuel, you save on your VED, and also you've got depreciation now, which is positive. So I bought this Nissan Leaf, ran it for 3 years, 30,000 miles, and sold it for, I think, £100 less than I paid for it 3 years ago to a dealer. So if I'd sold it privately, it would have been £2,000 positive. So once you drill down into those numbers, they are really, really cheap. And then you don't have any exhausts or exhaust gas recirculation valves, diesel particulate filters, and these always fail on MOTs. So on your post 3-year-old car, your electric car, the failure rate is much, much lower than a normal combustion car because there's less to fail on.
Which is really interesting because a lot of people are talking about, look, the upfront costs a lot. You're looking at about 10 grand difference between a traditional ICE vehicle. So to hear that actually you do save money, and in 3 years to only have to change a few little things is minor.
Absolutely.
What other myths would you say that there are about EVs? Or what are the top 3 would you say? Because there's a lot, isn't there?
The top 3, I mean, they used to say you can't drive them in the rain, of course. You know, you can't go in a car wash because it's all going to fuse and it's going to spark, isn't it? That's gone, but now people say, well, I mean, look, your battery, you're going to need a new battery in 4 years and it's going to cost £10,000, so the car will be scrapped. Batteries are lasting 300,000 miles. There's a fleet of Nissan Leaf taxis up north in your part of the world, Abigail, that have done 330 miles on the original battery packs. Teslas with 1 million miles on them. So that's another myth. That they depreciate a lot and are unreliable. Well, they don't depreciate, because if you bought a Tesla Model X last year, you would be selling it for £8,000 more than you paid for it. My Tesla is worth exactly what I paid for it a year later and 15,000 miles. Nissan Leafs, they're just like that. They're not depreciating at all. Yeah, so, and then there's this kind of myth, what are we going to do with all these toxic batteries? There's going to be this huge mountain, steaming, conical pile of toxic battery waste. Well, not really, because they have these tremendously valuable minerals in them, like cobalt, like lithium, like nickel, like copper. They will be recycled and they will go on to become what's known as second life batteries in other EVs and static energy. So your big battery that will power your house or your business, or if they're big enough, even your city. So there's this whole kind of virtuous circle of we create these EVs and we repurpose the batteries, and they go round and round and round, and sometimes even have 3 lives. So, you know, and what I've discovered today, talking to several people within the industry, is there's an awful lot of lobbying money going into creating these myths and saying, you know, the EVs won't work. People are saying, well, hydrogen, let's have hydrogen. Hydrogen is going to be so expensive, and it's probably at least 10, maybe 15 years away from affordable industrial commercialization. And it'll never be low carbon, and it'll always create these emissions. So all that money is pouring in from the oil industry and all the vested interest to discredit EVs, and we have to be really, really careful. And I don't want the government to kind of roll back their ambitious targets of 2030 and saying that we are going to have an electrified society.
That's really interesting, and I think that they're definitely things that I've heard before. All right, not the cars are going to, you know, combust if they go into a car wash, but definitely things like depreciation. I've heard that a lot. Is it worth buying one now? That's a question that I've been asked a lot.
Which it's ridiculous. There's a shortage of EVs that people are mad for them.
And I think that from the sounds of what you've said and the history that you've had, that's prior to the big car crisis that we've got at the minute due to semiconductor microchips. So I wanted to also ask you, in your opinion, it's a little bit different, but what are the top 3 EVs that you like at the minute? 'Cause there's a lot of people that are coming up to rival Tesla. There's a lot of innovation going on. It's a very exciting time for cars in general.
There are a lot of really, really great EVs. I think the first one would be a Tesla Model Y, because it's just got so much space, and it is so versatile, and you could get all your kids and your family in it, and it'll do 135 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds or whatever. So it's a car for all reasons and all seasons, but it's expensive. It's like 59 grand. I think the Ioniq, the Hyundai Ioniq is really, really, really good, and that's less expensive. It's mid kind of 30s, and then probably the Kia e-Niro. I mean, those three, the Kia e-Niro is about 35 grand, and all those cars, the Tesla, the Hyundai, and the Kia, will do 250 miles to one charge, and they will hold their value so well. I mean, you try buying one now. They're over list because people want them so much. So, but we will get more electric cars that are cheaper, and that's another thing we need to campaign for. We need the 25 grand or the 20 grand electric car or the 15 grand electric car, and they will come.
And I mean, I was having a look. I was speaking to my community about electric cars in general, and they asked, well, what 3 cars can I get that are under 25 grand? And I mean, you're looking at nearly £25,000 for a Fiat 500, which we discussed, for fully electric. And I understand that obviously it's got an automatic gearbox with 1 gear, but so there are reasons why it is more expensive, and obviously the savings. But how are we going to bring the price down? What needs to happen for that to take place?
The main cost of the electric car, Abigail, is the batteries, which are about 50 to 60% of the cost. So yeah, so your cost is about $130 per kilowatt hour. So you can very quickly ramp up on a big 100 kilowatt hour battery, a big load of cost. So again, if we have a battery industry like Britishvolt in the UK, we can make these batteries with an economy of scale. We won't have to pay what they want in South Korea or China or Japan. We don't have to have them shipped here. We can make them here, perhaps with British lithium as well, which would be absolutely wonderful, and create this industry where battery prices come down. And I've spoken to some of the electrochemists, particularly Isabel Sheldon, OBE at Britishvolt, and she says, there'll come a day when we will make batteries for cars that cost £20,000 that will do 150 miles to one charge, because we will have so many chargers that people won't want to do 300 miles to one charge, that we'll be able to hop around and charge these cars up really, really quickly. And so the prices will come down. And this is, and I sound really misty-eyed about this, Abigail, but this is a moment in our growth as a society where we can energy transition from fossil fuels to clean, renewable, low-carbon, responsibly sourced electricity, and clean the air and not burn stuff. I know you're a car enthusiast, and so am I. When you look at all the friction, the oil, the pollution, the smell, the smoke, and then you get into a Tesla and you're doing 60 on, say, the Plaid, which is even faster than your husband's car, in 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, without any of that mechanical friction or fuss or smoke or burning. That's got to be the future, hasn't it, really?
I have to say, the first time I drove a Tesla Model 3, I wanted one, because the instant torque is just on another level, isn't it?
I have to kind of rein myself in, and luckily my son's usually in the passenger seat saying, "Dad, stop it." Because you go out prowling and you just think, I can have him, or I can have that bloke, oh yeah, they are really fast. I mean, 3.5 seconds to 60. And that's Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati territory. Yeah, absolutely. But, you do that and your range goes down, obviously.
Yeah. No, of course. But I think Tesla are definitely leading the conversation when it comes to electric vehicles because of the supercharger network. Yeah.
I mean, look, it is to the eternal shame of our government that Tesla managed to do this fantastic world-class supercharger network that is the best, the most reliable and the most powerful in the world, without any fuss or flourish. They just did it. And here we are, connecting up lampposts in the UK.
How many kilowatts?
5.5 kilowatt hour. Come on. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, and isn't that the title of your speech, What We're Waiting For? Yeah.
Infrastructure, what are we waiting for?
Yeah. So what are we waiting for, and what do you believe needs to happen in order for us to actually achieve this road to 2030?
We really do need to start getting clever about this and saying, right, let's start to do this so that nobody in the UK is more than, say, 5 to 10 miles away from a rapid charger. And by rapid, I mean between 50 to 150 kilowatt charger, so they could charge up quickly, safely, and conveniently. And let's have, why can't we have EV hubs where you can go in there, charge your car, have a cup of coffee, Wi-Fi. There's a huge opportunity here, but for some reason we're not grasping it. And private enterprise will not be able to do this on their own. They need help from the government. They need subsidies. They need encouragements. They need expedited planning permission. They need a moratorium on VAT. They need help with laying the cables. That way, we will do things like, for instance, electrify America. I mean, Biden is wanting to spend $1 trillion, on this. And here we are nibbling around the periphery. And come on, let's do it, because the cost to society of the public health damage from air quality alone would pay for all this in a heartbeat.
That's really interesting. And what I want to know as well is there any private sector funding or help from the government available at the minute to get involved in electric vehicle charging or infrastructure?
I'm sure there is, and the Department of Business and Innovation will be able to help. But whatever it is, it's not enough, and it's not easy enough to access. We really do need to have an infrastructure strategy. We need to have a head of infrastructure, a czar, and we need to give the consumers the confidence that they will have this network to just plug their cars in. You can change the behavior. I am a car nut. You are a car nut. And here we have... We've done it. And I last night, park the car, plug it into the lamppost, do the barcode thing, and it's all right, and it's fine. And it's charged up the following morning. You can change your behavior. And it's just so important that we help people do this.
No, I agree. So last night on my way here, I got a Bolt taxi. I've never got a Bolt before, but I got a Bolt taxi, and he turned up in a 71 plate Tesla Model 3, which was amazing. I felt like the Queen, But when I started to ask him about the costs and things like that, he said he'd had it a week. He bought it believing that he would get some sort of help from the government, because obviously they've brought in more charges, congestion, etc., which is needed. But I just thought that there might have been some sort of help to, for people who...
Well, you can't subsidise people to buy Teslas. That's the problem. So they're more expensive, and they don't qualify for the grant, I don't think, anymore. But there are other ways that you can subsidise the cost of owning a car like that, because if you've got a small business, you won't pay any corporation tax for the first year. You can write the whole cost of that car, which is between £40,000 and £50,000, against your corporation tax bill. So there's that. If you do it on salary sacrifice, it's less. And if you do it on a PCP, you can get the price of that car down to about £350, because they are appreciating. So the depreciation on the PCP, they've costed it in, and they're becoming more affordable. And remember, look, you obsess about this price. Oh, it's going to be £40,000. You'll get your dough back after 2 years. It won't cost you anything in depreciation, that car, because the market for used Tesla Model 3s is going to go on and on and on and on. So think about it as probably the best investment you'll ever make, because you'll have free motoring. You're not paying for your fuel. You're not paying for your repairs. You've got an 8-year warranty on the battery, a 4-year warranty on the drivetrain, and it's going to go up in value. I mean, what's difficult? What's not to love?
It's a no-brainer, and I feel like you're a very good salesman for Tesla, Quentin. Definitely just going to rush off and buy one now. And I mean, the deposit, they know what they're doing. The deposit's what, £100? £100 for a deposit.
Look, I've had one for a year. We've done 15,000 miles in it. We went to France in it a while ago, 769 miles, three charges. It'll change your life, Abigail.
Well, I'll see you later. I'm off to Tesla, guys. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, Quentin?
I think we've probably delighted them long enough, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.